Welcome to the Financial Freedom Podcast, where freedom is having the household income to generational levels, having the time where you're working in your business 1 to 2 days per week so that you can be healthy to do the things you love with the people you love. And I have my friend Lora today. You know, Lora, we go way back, right? So at least we went to the same school, but not the same time. So Lora, when we met, I mean, our values are very aligned about
Absolutely.
helping business owners, right, with prosperity. And you have a non-conventional story. So can we kind of walk through your story
Absolutely.
and then what you do to help business owners, you know, with all this, you know, the better life kind of stuff?
Absolutely. Appreciate you being on this today, Kirk. And yeah, happy to jump right in because we sharing key values is definitely the start of the game. That's definitely where we all have to start.
Yeah, that's it. So take us back. Where did you grow up?
Oh, well, I grew up kind of in your backyard. I grew up on the Maryland side of the Washington, D.C. area and was exposed to just a very diverse culture of area. I mean, many cultures, just kind of that diverse cultural area where you think about things differently. Mm-hmm. And it always brought a perspective. And actually, I'm going to share one quick story that I always remembered from high school. I sat next to a lady who was an immigrant, and her family had actually recently immigrated because her family was involved in the Afghanistan war. Now, this was Afghanistan and Russia. This was many, many, many decades ago. It has nothing to do with, Gulf War, anything like that. And I just imagine, like, what it would be like to be a teenager, all of a sudden in a new high school, in a new place, looking to make new friends. And the only thing you want to do is just enjoy people's company and make sure that you fit in and you belong.
Yeah. And so tell me more. How did that shape you? You're in Washington D.C. D.C. is a pretty diverse area, a lot going on. Yeah. I moved here from Houston, if you hear an accent, but I stayed here through 30 years later. I stayed here because it's just like it's kind of a wow area. So what about that experience impacted you?
It's being able to look at people and look at more of the commonalities that you have together, and that shared aspect, those shared values, because it has nothing to do with what you look like. If you have an accent, you're from Houston, I'm from the DC area, probably a little bit more mild, but the idea is when you can be that bridge builder, and it doesn't matter what you look like, doesn't matter how you talk, but the idea is you find those core things that are important to you, and that's the biggest thing is when you find out what's important to the other person, it may be different than what's important to you. And by the way, that's called life. That's how we have to live. And that's how you can start moving the ball forward in all areas of your life, in your business. When you start to find out those core values that align you, it doesn't matter about all the other stuff because you understand who the person is at their core.
Yeah, that's I don't know if that's obvious to everybody. I went through 20, 30 years of work, and I remember having companies, the vision, the mission, the values, on some wall somewhere. Yeah. And I remember, I'm a finance guy, and so I remember thinking, wow, what does that mean, right? And I saw it as being useless. Did you always have a sense that the values were the anchor point for doing things in relationships, or did you discover that?
It's something I had to discover. I mean, it was one of those, I never realized I had such a knack in working with people from diverse areas, and my background is quite extensive in that I've actually worked across continents. I've worked in many different types of organizations. And when you figured out that when you get to somebody's core of what's important to them, you get through those problems so much easier. You get to the core of what, and even in doing, where we are now in the entrepreneurial world and business partnerships, I've point blank asked businesses, like, what are your values? And I've had people be like, I've never been asked that. And I'm like, yeah. Wait, you want to do something really, really big, and you actually don't know who that person is at the core? It's very difficult and very hard. So it's definitely something I've had to learn, and it's through my outdoor experience is outdoor adventure when I've been in really tough situations and literally, life or death situations, to also the business side, working across cultures and having people with, 6 or 7 different accents to get us all on that same page. It takes a lot of work, but when you understand what the core value is and the core where you're going, it's a very different scenario.
Yeah. Because you had a different, tell us about, John Hopkins, what did you study there?
So I have a master's degree in public health, and I came about that because originally I have a bachelor's in neuroscience, and I was all about the biological basis of behavior. I wasn't so much interested in, the talking or the psychology, but it was like, what is it within the body that does it? But then received a degree in public health because it was all about prevention and treatment of disease, because that's where I was at the time is, what is it within somebody who, in my story, I was a suicidal teenager, depressed teenager, because I went through a lot of death as a kid. And it was like, how come I came out of it, but other people don't, or people don't? And so I always wanted to, it's like, if we can get ahead of the game for any type of disease or ailment, the greater we will be. And that's what started a whole journey of understanding rates of disease, how we affect things. And that's what actually brought me into these multicultural areas, because then I was trying to study this across different populations and genders and ages and, comorbidities where you have multiple different things at the same time.
Yeah. So you, a teenager, you were in pain, right? Suicidal. Did you actually attempt suicide?
Came pretty close. I luckily was only in the contemplation stage, but I definitely had the ways figured out of how I was going to do it for sure.
Yeah. So at that point, it's getting pretty specific, and that's a scary place to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I worked behavioral science. I certainly was a teenager. I was thinking the other day, reflecting on that time period of my life, and it was difficult. I don't know what it is. You probably know more, but the brain, the social, I definitely say later in life is a lot better. In my case, I'm in the 50s. Like, wow, this is better than expected. So you were suicidal, and that pain. You had a choice, right? You can take the hero's journey and use that pain to go solve it for yourself and other people, or you can become the villain and try to, and kind of take control and inflict pain in order to try to be safe. What do you think caused, as you look back, what caused you to go one way versus the other?
As you were talking about that, what I realize is how many even adults can go back to their childhood experiences and they just never had that coping skill. Yeah. They never learned how to deal with something that was very difficult, very hard, how to move through it. Many kids went through the same situation I did. In many ways, it's not necessarily unique, but at the same time, what gets you through it is, what do you have access to? What do you understand is important? And do you have that kind of core support group, which, by the way, when you're a teenager, everything's off the chart. And do you actually realize how to have those coping skills? And I think even as adult clients now, is you can still go back to those key issues that were maybe never dealt with or buried, and, they just avoid certain things and aren't willing to deal with the conflict.
Yeah. How do business owners, because I've certainly experienced it, where I've been stuck and in pain, my business is plateauing, I'm not getting outcomes I want, and it's because there's something in me, right? There's an unconscious belief, there's something going on where a blind spot, call it what you want, but I'm stuck, and it's how do you, like, when business owners show up with you, how do they show up? Like, what's going on in their life?
There's usually something that they're stuck and they just can't pinpoint it. They've tried a million different things, tried a variety of modalities and different aspects, and they can't pinpoint what it was. And that's where my gift lies, is being able to pinpoint the root cause of what it is, help you release it, and then get back into what I call the receiving mode, so you can receive the divine guidance that comes through so you can move through it. And the reason here is that generally the client needs to see something from a different perspective. And that's where I come in. Is I tend to think of it as a bird soaring above a situation. If you're a bird kind of roaming and flying above a situation, you're going to have a different viewpoint and a different vantage point than when you're stuck on the ground and you can only see what's in your way. If you can zoom out and say, you know what, there are multiple different things going on. It may even have nothing to do with you, and you might be even just trying to control something that is something that you can't even handle, and how to let it go and move on.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go deeper, because where I see it is, business owners where they're struggling. It shows up on a very personal level, like household income. Maybe it's good, maybe it's okay, but it's not what they thought it would be. It's not consistent with the reason why they got into business. I mean, I see that kind of financial pressure show up, and then you can trace it back to the business. I mean, sales, delivery, cost management, that kind of stuff. And then there's the other side to it where the same business owner is working massive hours. Just it could be easy 40, 50, 60 hours a week, and it's painful. It's sometimes decades into it, and it's still like, wow, massive effort and okay outcomes, right? Sometimes not okay outcomes. Are you seeing anything like that?
Oh, absolutely. And I can also say that at one point in time, I was a professional burnout, so I understand this quite easily. And the fact that what tends to happen, and what a lot of people don't realize, is that we have to take breaks. And it's in the breaks and in the recovery that we rejuvenate ourselves. And that's why kind of part of who I am and what I help people with is get back to the fun in life. If you don't have fun scheduled somewhere, in whatever fun is to you, you're not going to have that freedom that you want to do. Because if you don't pause, start taking care of yourself, that's when all of a sudden you rejuvenate, and then you wake up the next morning and you can go and you can be really fresh. If you wake up every morning and you're exhausted and you're tired, you're not focused, you're not fully on, it's very different. Most people don't realize that you actually get probably more done in about 4 to 6 hours of a day than when you do in like a 12-hour day. You don't really get that much more done as much as people think.
Yeah. So there's something there. You focus, that kind of thing. So let's go. Because you walk this walk, right? You burn out, stuck, figure things out, and so talk us through, like, if you're working with a client, what do they experience when they, from introduction to outcomes? What do they experience with you?
So the very first part is we get down to the core of what's really important to them, and where is it they really want to go, and understand where those dreams and desires are, because a lot of people haven't even sat down to figure out what that is, and they do a lot of sacrificing thinking they're actually going to get there when that doesn't happen. We tend to think of, if we work hard and so forth, we'll eventually get to our family, our kids, our vacations, and then you wake up decades later and you're tired, you have ill health, and by the way, most likely, you probably are coming to a potential divorce if you're married or in a relationship. And you probably see this all the time in these discussions, is like, okay, but the thing is what happens is people forget to take care of themselves. And this is the biggest thing that generally has to happen with people, is they got to get back to understanding who they are at the core, release the issues that they have going on, so that I call it the release, receive, resolve paradigm. Mm-hmm. And we go through a 5-part framework to handle this.
Yeah, so you got a framework. Is it kind of step by step? Is that how it is, or is it do you move different places based on what's going on?
It's very individualized, because everybody has strengths and deficits in different areas. So it meets people right where they are, and based on these kind of key areas, and especially the passion part, when we start to solidify their passion and start to create the boundaries around that, and they start to really say yes and no really easy, and decision making becomes like this. Yeah. Really, really quick versus like, maybe later. They can start taking stuff off that place, and using words we both know, we start closing those cycles really quickly.
Yeah, so they at that point they have clarity. They're making decisions. They're following through. They're not doing the noise stuff. They're focused on the main thing that is aligned with that, whatever that guiding light is. That what a great place to be. Mm-hmm. Because most time there's a for a lot of business owners, there's got to be a level of pain, and the pain is so great they take action. But then once that's resolved, if they don't have like that guiding light to really their true self, what they're really here for, that gift, boy, the follow through on the next step to get there starts to drop really fast. And you when we spoke before, you talked about the genius gift. Mm-hmm. It's what the genius gift? What's that?
So we all have unique gifts within us that allow us to excel. And as part of it working with me, you'll discover what some of your own gifts are that allow you to work through those situations much easier, much quickly. And when people start to understand what those are, what they easily do is start applying them to all the situations in their life, because whether it's their life or their business or relationships, the problems generally are the same, and it's about applying them across the board.
Yeah, that's something. And then once you become aware of your gift, you got a choice to accept it. If you accept it, you got a choice to amplify it to other people. It's an option.
So you know what? I absolutely love what you just said about that, because here's the thing. Not everybody wants to accept the brilliance that they have deep within them. And it is a choice. I love that you just said that. It's a choice whether you want to amplify it and showcase it to the world and use it for the betterment of, I say, humanity and your business and those people around you, or do you want to keep it quiet and not use it at all? I mean, in the long run, it's the choice everybody has to take. And I also work with people to accept that and accept those gifts. I truly love what you just said there.
Yeah, it can be scary, right? Because it's been the unknown. In some ways, avoiding the place, not going to where. What's that book? The obstacle is the way. Most time we avoid that.
Yeah.
It's the gift that we're avoiding, and get into all these things. It impacts our. I experience it impacts my relationship with my wife, my kids, right? And it's really something. I was talking to a gentleman who owns a wealth management company yesterday, and he's a little bit older than me, and he very successful in every aspect, for at least from the surface, right? Very successful, and he was just getting to the point to start to question some of these things, like what is that second mountain, his purpose. He sold his business, so he's still working in the business that he sold, but it's kind of month to month, do what you want to do. He's not punching a clock anymore. And he started to really question that, it's funny how successful, beautiful business, right? And it just kind of feels like when I talk to him, he hasn't found his gift, his purpose, right? That second mountain that really lights him up. But he talked about veterans and people doing well financially. He's a wealth management guy, kind of stuff. So there's probably something there for him that would be like he could just all his skills, all his passion. But right now, I could feel it. It's just locked up.
And that's the key. And a lot of what I help people do is quiet their mind and listen to their heart. We have been so trained on being go, 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 do, that it's in that pause, in that silent whisper. I love it when I just like to say it's when the wind is talking to you when you're walking outside in nature, that all of a sudden things just start to click. But most people don't slow down enough to have that pause, to have that recovery moment, to realize how those gifts can start to apply. Because I've been blessed. I've worked in so many different industries, but there's still been that very common theme. And for me, it's been curiosity. And where curiosity has taken me my whole life has been a very, very wild ride.
Is that a key theme for you, where curiosity led you to take one step, the next step? Yeah.
Absolutely. And the thing is with curiosity is, excuse me, the curiosity just allows you to expand what you're capable of. And, whether it went from, neuroscience to public health to understanding clinical trials to wanting to explore ancient wisdom to traveling the world and just seeing what your capabilities are. And even in my mid-20s is when I first got into outdoor adventure. It started easy. It was, go on a 3-mile hike. And then it was like, okay, well, that was easy. Let me see if I can do a 5-mile hike. Let me see if I can do a steeper hike. And then next thing you know, I'm doing 10-mile hikes. And then I added some rock climbing. And then a few years down the line, I became a mountaineer. The more interesting part is that I never had the goal to become a mountaineer. It was in following this place of curiosity that I got to see what I was capable of that I'd never even realized.
Yeah. That's wild how one thing, you take a few steps, you can see further down the road at that point than options you didn't know about. And I'm kind of curious. So you're out there taking steps, somewhat unknown. You don't know the how. Entrepreneurs that definitely do that. Were you getting resistance from people around you, like family members, that kind of stuff?
Of course. You think your family wants to know that you rock climb and do slightly life and death situations that you put yourself into or potentially hurt?
Well, you were going to undeveloped countries and here and there, kind of out there. You weren't in the downtown, with the lattes and that kind of stuff. It'd be very easy for somebody who loves you to have a fear response, right? And stay safe, stay status quo, stay small. Don't worry about your genius gift. They won't say that, but it's a fear, and they're going to repress or react or criticize, right? Is that kind of, did you experience something like that?
Absolutely. And I think this is where when people understand who they are at their core and what makes them really come alive with that passion, it lights their flame, it gets them excited. I mean, with you could probably talk about different financial strategies and different ways to do this. And it's like, it excites you. Like all of a sudden, time becomes still, and you could probably talk about it for hours upon hours upon hours, and you lost track of time. Yeah. When you have that passion within, you do that. And the same thing for that curiosity for me is more of like, oh, if I can go here, what else can I do? I mean, the first time I traveled alone, I went to Australia and New Zealand, English speaking, made it easy to go around. But then, okay, well, where else can I go? And started to have that understanding of, believe it or not, if you learn how to kind of blend in with culture and not stick out, you can travel more easily. You can get to other places and you start to learn, what you're going to do that's more safe when you travel versus not. And even the same thing for adventure. It was more of when you kept following that curiosity, I didn't realize what I was capable of until I tried something new. And I love what you actually said there is that, especially as an entrepreneur, we walk in the unknown all the time. We have big dreams, but they're also really, really scary. Yeah. And the thing is this, and this is what rock climbing taught me the most. When you make the next move, the move after that then gets revealed. I mean, hey, I'm a former project manager. I'm used to Gantt charts and critical path, and every little step of the way. But I love that laugh. You're like until the hiccup, until the problem, until the delay, right? Yeah. Until the market crashes and you didn't know it. And the thing is that as you just consistently make these moves, the next step gets revealed, and something bigger and brighter can come in that wasn't even part of your original dream. I mean, even going into, for example, I was training to go climb Mount Rainier a second time, and all of a sudden I was presented with an opportunity. Somebody else I was actually training with, but he was on a different mountaineering expedition. his teammates dropped out, he asked me in front of a group of friends, hey, do you want to join my team? And I was awestruck. I was honored. He also did it right in front of my climbing partner that I was supposed to climb Rainier with, which I'm very strong on keeping my commitments. I looked at him, and he looked me right in the eye, and he said, that's an amazing opportunity. I think you should take it.
That's fantastic.
And this is what happens is if we start to take these steps into the unknown, I call it these audacious opportunities are going to start showing up in your life. Because people see you, they see how you're reacting, they see how you're responding, they see what your consistent movements are, and they're willing to invite you to tables that you didn't realize you could sit at.
Yeah. That's a beautiful thing, right? If you weren't there, if you didn't take that first 2-mile hike, it never would have led to that moment where you had an option, right? To jump in, go further, different team, different people around you, or not. That's really something. And then I wonder, like business owners, how many business owners actually have support? They get support in the business owner community, right? We're all kind of in the game. We love it on some level. But I wonder how much support they get from their family, their loved ones, their friends. I can imagine that the friend groups a lot of times are knocking people back back to the shadows, stay in your safe place, that kind of stuff. Why do you think like you stepped out there multiple times, from your teenage experience to your professional journey? You stepped out there. It wasn't one step, right? It was at least hundreds, but you kept taking steps. What characteristics do you see in a person who does that in their life versus the person who just stays status quo, safe?
So I think from there is I go back to that curiosity and I think this is also what makes entrepreneurs and business owners a little bit different, is we do get excited about like what's next. So that curiosity for us is a little easier to work with. But at the same time, what keeps some people stuck and other people move forward is how fast can you deal with whatever's holding you back? So whether it's an obstacle or a relationship, how fast are you really resolving that issue? And are you going to let it weigh down on you? Is it going to hold you down? Or is it also going to be something where if you can handle it, the faster you can handle something, the faster you can move on to something else that's next that's going to be moving forward. Too often, I always want to go back to having a courageous conversation. So many people like hold back. There's something that's bothering you. Maybe you don't know how to approach it. But the idea is if you have that weight on you for a conversation that hasn't occurred, it's also taking up headspace.
Oh, big time.
You think about it all the time.
Yeah.
It sucks your energy. And then, by the way, you're not doing whatever's important to you because this whole thing is weighing you down.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like how many things are you weighing down because you haven't handled them? And I'm not going to say it's easy, but one of the things I tend to work with my clients is what's the courageous conversation you need to have today or this week, whether it's, your business partner, with a family member, and also find those people who are to support you, because one of the biggest things I see there is that your friends will help you say that whatever your story is correct. What you really want is to have friends and colleagues who are going to offer you a very different perspective on whatever that situation is or that perspective. And you can be like, well, you know what? I'm kind of thinking this, and this, and this, and this, and maybe this is why I'm angry or whatever it happens to be. And it's like, take a step back, go back to that bird view. What is it that you're not seeing? What is it that's really like triggering in you, making you mad? And maybe it just has something that you just need to release and let go, versus if we just have those courageous conversations, people feel so much lighter afterwards because at least they got resolution. Maybe you didn't get the answer they wanted or they hoping for, But
Yeah.
at least they got that resolution to move forward to the next thing.
Yeah, and there's a lot there. Like there's speed to resolution, and then there's how do you collaborate and think about things to get that moment of clarity where you have a choice to act or not act. It's funny that those things that are occupying headspace, it's it grows, and then, right? Yeah. Then you have a conversation. It's like, oh, it's tiny.
You were I loved watching your energy. Like he was like, boop.
Yeah,
It's
like,
fine.
oh, right, and then I could have done that 6 months ago,
Yeah.
instead
Yeah.
of feeding the beast kind of thing. It's the let's pick up a little bit on this whole idea of being. There's lots of natural reasons why somebody would stay in the comfort zone, the safe zone, versus that growth zone. You know, you go out into the jungle, there's new animals, there's risk, that kind of thing. And I think the comfort zone, I think status quo is very deceptive because just the technology acceleration that's going on right now. There's 5 technologies: AI, robotics, Web3, blockchain, right? And each one of those is so disruptive, it's not even funny. And then quantum computing is behind that. So any person who's sitting there, hey, especially business owners, right? Hey, I'm status quo. This is good. This is how we made money for 10 years this way. We'll keep doing it, whatever, the career. Oh my God. I mean, that person, that company, whoever's operating like that is going to be at such a disadvantage, like pretty fast. I mean, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, it's going to be a very different world than what we know today, even what people expect. And so I think that's going on. And then I also think being more human as these technologies take roots and they really automate lots of things that people are currently doing. I think for the business owner to be more human, really connect and lead as with the vision of the business. I think that's going to be more important than ever before. And it's such a I already 10 years ago I was like, why is that on the wall? Values, mission, that kind of stuff. Like what a waste of paint, right? So talk us through your thoughts about like people who stay in status quo versus the place that we're going. Like it's not like or not. It's an opportunity to thrive. But
I love everything you just said. I was like, there is so much to unpack in what you just said, and I'm gonna start with this. What's more dangerous, driving a car or rock climbing?
Probably a car. But I would have said rock climbing, except that you asked.
Exactly, but again, just probably general perception, rock climbing's more dangerous.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, that's the exact way in perception that most people tend to work, is that, oh, I go do something new, I perceive it as dangerous, something might happen to me. Okay. Yeah. Meanwhile, there's something you do probably every single day that is actually way more dangerous than that. So this is where actually rock climbing is safer than driving a car. And it's about applying that in twisting that perception on going, it's about learning that new thing. So if we're not growing, we're actually going backwards.
Yep.
And people don't realize it is that's when you feel stuck, is because you're not growing. So whether it's apply it to somewhere in your life, whether it's learning about blockchain and AI and having a pulse versus jumping full in and going all on board, versus, hey, at least where is it somewhere that I can get an understanding what this is, have an understanding of how it's going to apply to me. And the third part of which I love is that really love how you brought this up. Having that human connection is even more and more important, because technology is it's a blessing and a distraction at the same time. We can get a lot more done, but at the same time, if we lose who we are in that process, that's not helpful to us. So this is where having the core of understanding who you are and what's important, and being that gap and bridging those two together, and making sure that we have the leaders today that know how to show up, be themselves, can still have those heart-to-heart connections with people, not just surface level, but that real heart-to-heart. and say, hey, here's the things that can help you move forward, because it's when you make decisions from your heart, not from here, that we can then also make sure that you're moving companies forward in the right manner.
Yeah, that's a brilliant place to be. I got to believe, like 5-10 years out, how increasingly important that real connection. This stuff about going to work, don't ask people where they're from. Like we talked about our accent, Texas accent, DC accent. I mean, how can you? If we can't even talk about that, like who you are, what you care about, doesn't matter what seat the person is in the company. I mean, how are we supposed to do what we're supposed to, whatever we're doing in the world, service products that lift things up to contribute to people's well-being, whatever it is. Toilet paper contributes to people's well-being in a big way. Especially like the kind of stuff you do where you really get in and help elevate people. It seems like part of the culture wants to shut being human down. Can't talk about anything, can't ask, can't be personal, keep it arm's length. And in my experience in business, it's when you're arm's length, all this, the kind of stuff that HR would advise you to do, that's when that's when mistrust really increases. Why can't we talk about it? Why can't we do this? So the level of mistrust starts to really go up. And that's when I see employment problems, like everything from performance to lawsuits, because there's this big betrayal because they are intentionally not human in their business. Quite frankly, DEI, where it's all this other stuff versus being real people coming into this organization to do something remarkable together. The traditional work environment is really pushing people away from being human.
Absolutely, and it's very even interesting back to my early years and my corporate years is that I was a different person, like at work versus at home. I was like you wouldn't even know who I was between my personal life and it was like night and day. Yeah. And it's, I think, when what we have to get back to is that there is learning how to feel. And when we can actually understand what's going on within us and being willing to be vulnerable and also make suggestions at the job, at the work, hey, here's a better way to go about it versus just tell me what to do. I'm going to be centered and straight and I'm going to... You are like a robot.
Yeah.
And when we can start to be playful, I'll tell you, man, start being playful with your team. Have fun. Tell some jokes. Be silly. Get a little goofy. Yeah. Doing things like having ping pong doesn't necessarily work, has been said, having stuff like that in the office. But go have some fun. Go enjoy yourself. Like whatever your team loves to go do, whether it's go play golf or go to a football game together. When you start to do some of those more human-to-human things that you just enjoy and have fun, and you let loose a little, life becomes so much different. I mean, I always come back to play as one of the key areas of my framework is gotta have fun, have to be open to something new and something different, and being willing to go do it.
That's a great approach, because plays like that, you're playing a game, and then in the middle of the game, so we can say, hey, let's add this to the game. Let's do this. Let's throw the ball that way. Let's roll it over here. That kind of stuff. And if an organization is doing that, if the leader's doing that, then when it's time to solve a problem, hey, let's figure out the household income. Let's figure out where people can do better and live a life versus being trapped in some kind of way. Then team members are really figuring stuff out, like a game, right? They feel confident putting ideas out that may or may not be valid, right? But they'll put it out there to start to explore. Man, it's a different energy there. Where that kind of business. I love that you have play built. It's so natural. Nobody has to tell a child. Well, in the past, no one has to tell a child to go play. Now you have to say. It used to be punishment when I was growing up to come inside the house. Yeah. And now it's punishment. If you don't behave, I'm going to send you outside. So play is not as natural, I think, with the younger generation as it was with. I'm an Xer with my generation.
Yeah. No. Well, I'm right there with you as being the Xer, and it's just when we play, it's also about imagination. I mean, I even laugh within rock climbing. okay, you use muscles that you never even knew existed in your body because you're like, okay, I need to tweak this way and move my body that way and angle this way, and then I need to like somehow move forward really, really quickly. And it's all, I called it one big puzzle. And I had fun. Rock climbing was fun to me because it was a big puzzle.
Yeah.
And if we treated our work environment as a puzzle and we had fun with how to solve things or when things come up, and we make it just more light instead of like heavy and so forth. And yes, you know, when it comes to C-suite, you're making decisions that might be multi-million-dollar decisions, might affect a lot of people. But if we're constantly working so much, then you have a constricted body. It's very different than being more relaxed and having fun and so forth, and then coming in and being like, how am I going to approach its situation? Your body's in a different area, your mind's in a different frame of mind, your heart's in a different place. It's just very, very different.
Yeah, I can see it's a beautiful thing. So I think there's additional steps. So there's the way the business owner, the team members, the management team, whoever they are, showing up a certain way. And there's also the business owner. You know, we talk about these massive hours that a lot of business owners are putting in, even years into the business. If they're able to elevate themselves on that level, develop other people who can follow through, then the business owner starts to become the architect of the business, where it's more like how do I engage the people and develop it as an asset. And at that point, the business owner, maybe you get the work down to 1 or 2 days a week, and it's very doable. And then at that point, the money's good, the hours, and then you're free to be healthy, right, and have relationships that matter. I've seen too many. I certainly miss in the early years, kind of you know, elementary school through middle school. You know, I got up early, I left, I came back late. Right, and I saw my kids on the weekend when I was tired, and I wasn't a horrible father, but man, what a price to pay. I got 2 sons I'm really, really proud of, and I missed a lot just because I was grinding away. I'm sure looking back that with some of these things that you're teaching, Lora, that I could have worked a respectable week, been home for certain things, left early to go see the game, and still hit the ball out of the park at work. I'm sure with the things, but it wasn't obvious to me. I mean, I have values and connecting with people on this level. I thought I was connecting. I always cared about people, but on this level, it wasn't obvious to me.
Well, and I think that's where getting back to that humanness that you mentioned earlier, that is so important as technology speeds us through. That getting back to that humanness and the core of who we are, and understanding that when we take care of ourselves and we take care of the people around me, and you're having that fun, joyful play, whether it's watching a game or helping kids with homework or being there for a friend or just going to doing something fun with your friends, card game, going out for a walk, whatever it is how important those little moments are, and that those are those little pieces of pausing that rejuvenate you, that it's your recovery, because as you mentioned so beautifully earlier, is that you are healthy and you have those relationships. And it certainly shows that if you continue down that line, at some point, you know, disease is dis-ease. You're not in ease anymore. And it shows that all you are is you're in discordance and you're not in harmony. And when you start to bring your life back into harmony again, and that's what I do with my framework, you have to get all these 5 pieces together. Like, it's not one. It's an ebb and a flow between these different areas, that when you bring this framework into harmony, it becomes a whole different ball game. And you have to first start with yourself. And, you know, whether it's man or woman, we tend to always take care of everybody else first. But if we're not full, we can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah.
And so many people do that so often, and we do have to refill our own cups. And I'm going to repeat this, do not feel guilty about taking a day off, taking time off, going to do something for yourself that's going to rejuvenate your soul, because that's when you can start showing up at work with your family and your relationships completely differently.
Lord, that's huge. Yeah, I to this day, and I'm on this path with you, right? To this day, I still feel like I should be doing, instead of focus on the priority, which I do focus on the priority,
Yeah.
I still feel like I should be doing something else. It's 9 o'clock at night, I should be doing something else. Like, oh my God, come on.
Yeah.
That's not human.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing is, I mean, in some ways, it's so ingrained in us. It takes time. I mean, I have to work on it too. I mean,
Yeah.
it's something I constantly keep myself in check. But the idea is, are you pushing off a vacation? And, you know, even if it's not money-wise, like, go do something for a day. Go for a walk in the park. Go check out a new restaurant. I mean, you're in Washington, D.C., and, like, the area's changed so much since I was a kid. Go walk through a new area. I mean, things change, neighborhoods change. Expose yourself to something new, because when all of a sudden you have that newness, and I love to use the word awe, like all of a sudden you're awestruck. You're like, oh, I didn't know that store existed, or I've never seen this flower before, or I've never felt this way before. All of a sudden you're refreshed in a whole different way. You become playful inside, and then allows you to move forward into those next steps and those bigger decisions just from a lighthearted place, which is way easier to make decisions from.
Yeah, that really says a lot. So if we bring this all together, come in for a landing here, can you bring it into like make a statement? What problem do you solve with business owners?
The problem I solve the most is when their life is spinning out of control and they need to pinpoint that root cause of what's going on. I'm the person who can help you quiet your mind, listen to your heart, and bring you into that focus and that playful attitude again.
That's brilliant. And I can testify the future is bright. It's better when a person does this, the future is better than what they may have ever imagined. In all prosperity, relationships, feeling good. It's there. So what is the best way for someone to contact you?
If you go to my website, defylogic.com, and it's logic with a K, I would love to bring you on board into a group program that I'm going to be releasing soon that's going to bring you together to get that passion back in your life. Because when we create those boundaries around that passion, we say yes to the right things, we say no to things that don't serve us, and you're just going to go full throttle ahead and in the most amazing way.
That's beautiful. So I encourage the business owners and other people, it's not just business owners, other people, if there's something here that's resonating where you kind of feel something, that's probably a cue that there's something here for you. Well, I'm going to encourage you to at least have a conversation, because I did something like that 2 years ago and talk about life changer. Life changer. I actually have a life now, right? And it's a good thing. So Lora, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story, because when we first talked, I thought, wow, this is the interesting story. What you're doing now is beautiful. So I appreciate you coming on.
Well, thank you so much, Kirk. It's an honor to be on. I actually had so much fun with this discussion today. And when we start living these principles, you literally accelerate the fun, freedom, and fulfillment in your life. And if we all come from that place, we're just going to rock and roll and enjoy everything that comes our way.
Fantastic.
So thank you again.
Yeah, for the audience, thank you for your time and attention. Embrace freedom, embrace prosperity, bring other people along. Nobody can get there by themselves. So whatever wisdom you have, bring the people you care about along so that we thrive together. So thank you for your time and attention. I'll see you soon.
Thank you, Kirk.